2 months before those elections, the Civil Guard had already detected mail-in voting fraud in Melilla, in Mojácar, in Almería, in Murcia, in Ciudad Real, and in Tenerife, so we're not talking about anything exceptional, unfortunately. In how many more places was there fraud in the mail-in vote and nobody detected it?
No politician is ever investigated, nor are people around politicians by the tax authorities. What a coincidence, never ever, but they fry us. Since I don't know how many audits we faced, especially for those of us in activism, all of us who protest even a little are a bit persecuted. But they never get caught, huh? No, no, no.
But it's really easy to talk. But the king has a bullet. The king, if he makes a mistake at the moment of firing that bullet, it can turn against him. So the king, I think he has to wait for the right moment to strike.
We are talking about something very serious. We are talking about the Spanish nation. We are talking, apart from the purely, let's say, historical issue, the emotional commitment we have to our homeland. We are talking about the citizens. We are talking about a country that is falling apart, about a mafia group that is destroying institutions, that has stolen left and right, that has even changed Spanish foreign policy, allowing foreign powers that have altered the country's interests. I mean, we have to deal with this seriously and use the right words. It's not a deviation. He's a traitor to the whole nation, to all the citizens who at a certain moment trust him. And with him are all the necessary accomplices to have perpetrated all the crimes. That this mafia group, to stand up, to put their foot down and say, this is as far as we go.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.
Welcome. How are you, Confidentials? Thank you for being there. Strength, honor, and let's move forward because we're winning battle after battle. Look, this is the image of the day. The Prime Minister's brother is in the dock facing 3 years in prison because his brother, the president of the government, got him the job he should be. Pedro Sanchez should be sitting there. But it's easier to sit the one who benefited from the brother's favors, right? He's the first family member to sit in the dock. We'll see what happens next. His wife, Begoña Gomez, and then we'll see him. Sitting in the dock, the scene will be very similar, but in the Supreme Court, not in Badajoz. It's a symbolic image that no one is above justice, nor above the law, not even a mafia like the one that continues to govern Spain. Get ready, because they are preparing a forceful action against free media like us, against the opposition members who defend the rule of law. They are looking for ways to turn around the chaotic, extreme situation that the most corrupt government in the history of our country is experiencing. Don't forget that image. If we have managed, with just a handful of media, judges, Central Operational Unit, police officers, and journalists, to put the president's brother in the dock, why not go after him? I hope very soon, but there's something that worries me more. We'll talk about this trial later. Today we know many things thanks to Judge Pedro's report. Today we know that during the 5 days of reflection, the ones he says he took to decide whether it was worth continuing or not, he was lying to us, as always. They had just put his wife under formal investigation. It was April of 2024, Begoña Gomez charged. And he made that gesture. For what? To set up the sewers of the Socialist Party. He shouted in his office from Moncloa that could be heard outside of it. The shout was, "Get her out of there, damn it." He meant getting Begoña Gomez out from the charges that Judge Peinado had just brought against her. And the first one who came to her aid, do you know who it was? No, it wasn't Felix Bolaños. It wasn't Oscar Lopez, no. It was Juan Macerrano. Juanma Serrano, former president of Correos, former chief of staff to Sanchez, personal friend, supported him when he was kicked out as Secretary General, and he cheated by placing ballot boxes and votes in them. Juanma Serrano was the one in charge of organizing the dirty work. And why, you might ask? Why Juanma Serrano and not Bolaños, for example? Because 5 months ago, he had already helped him win the elections. Look, in July 2023, Sanchez wasn't at all sure he was going to be re-elected. The presidency, he knew he was going to lose. The question was by how much? If he lost by a lot, he couldn't govern. The Frankenstein coalition wasn't enough for him to do it, and he appointed a president to the point that they thought it wasn't going to happen, that they didn't even set up a stage at the door of Perad of the PSOE. There was nothing prepared. Everything was improvised. That victory happened in a surprising way after some local and regional elections took place in which the PSOE had dropped dramatically in all the autonomous communities. And suddenly, in the general elections on July 23rd, the PSOE rises 10 points. Is there such a big difference in votes in just 2 months? For example, in Madrid, the region, the PP got 47% in the regional elections and 40% in the general elections. It's strange, isn't it? And the PSOE, 18% of the vote in the regional elections and 28% in the general elections. What made the vote for the PSOE increase so much when no one expected it? Well, in large part, Juanma Serrano, the trusted right-hand man, the close friend, the one who set up, according to Judge Pedras, the sewers, a personal friend whom he placed in the post office as soon as he arrived at Moncloa and who achieved a record. Until now, never beaten, being the person who has sunk the Correos company the most. He left it with a debt that exceeds 1,200,000,000 euros. He didn't want Correos to manage. He was a disaster at management. He wanted Correos to win elections. We've already told you about the plan here before, but now we know more details. Sanchez calls elections on July 23, 2026. Elections had never been called so close to August before. 2.5 million people requested to vote by mail, and 500,000 couldn't vote because even though they received the ballot, it wasn't picked up or it didn't arrive properly. Interestingly, that 500,000 who didn't get it are mostly PP voters or Vox. It didn't reach the Salamanca neighborhood, but it did reach Vallecas. In Boadilla del Monte, not even the mayor was able to vote because Correos promised to open offices over the weekend and then didn't do it. But in Vallecas, they were all open. There are many ways to prevent someone from voting. The one who doesn't vote for you, and make it easier for left-wing neighborhoods to vote. That's what he did. Serrano, an obedient man if there ever was one. 2 months before those elections, the Civil Guard had already detected mail-in voting fraud in Melilla, in Mojácar, in Almería, in Murcia, in Ciudad Real, and in Tenerife. Therefore, unfortunately, we're not talking about anything exceptional. In how many other places was there mail-in voting fraud that went undetected? Above all, the fraud had several advantages. One, the one I mentioned, not sending the ballot to neighborhoods or not collecting it in neighborhoods where they don't vote for you. The other one was staged very well. Okay, Diario, there you can see the video. That's the place where Mercamadrid is. The biggest place in Madrid where the sacks were piled up with the mail-in vote. You could see the ballots from the street. Zero security, not a single police officer, not a civil guard, just an old veteran security guard who didn't really care about what happened inside that hangar. And to make the move even safer, Sanchez and Juanma Serrano, his friend, placed Lere Diaz in the right place, as we know today. That Lere was the key figure in the Dirty Tricks network. He puts her in Correos as the Director of Institutional Relations. She herself posted this message on social media, saying that, of course, she participated in the mail-in vote. I'm saying this because there are many of these fake fact-checkers who say otherwise. A grassroots activist, right? An investigative journalist? Yes. What she was became clear. The plumber sent by Ferraz to make sure that they could scrape a few more votes. Lere led more than 2,500 Correos post offices and organized more than 9,000 people. He handed out money in exchange for changing votes, moving mailbags, destroying or losing some. It has never been investigated. Now that we know the PSOE's dirty tricks operation, how far they are capable of going, Sanchez's mafia, what they are capable of doing. Now that we know, thanks to the judge's order, that there has been an attempt to bribe prosecutors with 300,000 euros, to bribe witnesses like Carmen Pano with 250,000 euros. Today, now that we know how it started and how Sanchez reached the Secretary General post, manipulating the vote in the ballot box, we are sure that the elections on July 23rd amounted to election fraud. The PP didn't want to do anything. He spoke a little half-heartedly at first and then admitted the results, and the rest just let it happen. After what became known and the investigation by the judge, now is the time to open that can of worms, to look for what happened, to investigate how they managed to increase the votes by 10% for Sanchez in 2 months. Because if it's proven, gentlemen, no motion of censure will matter. Sanchez is an illegitimate president who is illegally occupying the Moncloa Palace. We, civil society, demand an urgent investigation and immediate into the July 23rd elections. Welcome, we investigate.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this coming Sunday at 11 in the morning in all the cities of Spain except Madrid, now they'll tell us why. There will be a gathering of the self-employed at 11 in the morning this Sunday for their dignity. There's no need for reasons, right? There are plenty. The platform for the dignity of the self-employed is calling for it, and its coordinator, Mari Carmen Corredor. How are you, Mari Carmen?
Hello, well, here we are, nervous about the events that will happen to us on Sunday, but excited, and we hope that a lot of people will come and that we are heard in the streets.
Of course, why not in Madrid?
Not in Madrid this time, because we joined the rally Boseler organized when Daniel Boseler came, who is a lawyer from Barcelona who is creating a structure in which what they're trying to do is change the law regarding the self-employed, the taxation of the self-employed. Because right now, the way things are, we're completely unprotected because we're neither a big company nor an employee, so we need to change that situation. So he came to support us in Madrid, the one from March 2nd, and now we're returning the support to him, along with the entire Madrid organizing team, and everyone from Madrid we're going to go there to make ourselves heard and to give Madrid a voice as well in Barcelona and in support of...
It's very important because they've gathered 16 lawyers to propose a change in legislation. What are you looking for?
Well, what we're looking for is, among other things, something that also concerns us a lot is, for example, that we don't have to put up our own property as collateral like any business does. Company, right? That you have a minimum amount of money that you put in, for example, to set up an LLC with 3,000 euros in capital, and from there, well, you're not responsible. As freelancers, they can even take our house, which isn't fair. We don't think it's fair among this and many other things because freelancers know a lot about injustices.
Well, since the last time you called for demonstrations until today, what the government has done is raise the fees for freelancers. For those who have a small LLC, which is basically finishing off those who are already paying. It's never enough for them, no matter how much they take from you.
Apparently not. It seems like they need more. They really need a lot of money for their things.
Yeah, their things. You have to buy little jewels, for example. Hey, Carmen, there are plenty of reasons, and I know that. You have requested an audience with King Felipe VI. Why?
Well, because we need someone to listen to us. I mean, it's true that some politicians have approached us, especially we also know that we're in campaign season. The campaign is about to start soon. So, of course, we are 3.5 million. Our vote is very appealing. What we are looking for is a commitment. And without a commitment, as you know, nothing can be done. We know a bit about how politicians' promises are. They're not very trustworthy because today they say one thing and tomorrow they say another. Many people can get involved, but commitment is rare and even less so in writing, and we don't even have it in writing yet. We don't have much trust in them, so we've gone to request a meeting mainly for that reason, so that they listen to us, so that we are their people, so they need to listen and give us a voice. To such a loud voice that is having a hard time, because in reality, we understand that the community of the self-employed supports a large part of Spain. We provide jobs to many people, besides being self-employed ourselves. So we believe that it's one of the foundations that currently keeps Spain going. And I insist again, they're exterminating us. If you ask my son is about to turn 18. He's about to start university. He's taking the PAU exams. I ask him, "No, don't you want to be self-employed?" And he replies, "Mom, look at you. You have no life." That's the answer, that you have no life. You're not living.
Yes, yes. Hey, and what did the king say to you? I hope he's going to receive you.
Well, they answered us saying that right now they have a lot of people, but the feeling, I mean, what they're telling us is that they're going to put us on a waiting list.
We are, because I'm self-employed. We make up between 97 and 98% of the productive sector of this country. If the self-employed person decides one day not to do anything, everything stops here, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. You would see, I mean, the reality is many times we ask for the activity to stop for a day. We know it's impossible. People don't join in. And in fact, we tried on a Monday and it was impossible. But it would be shocking to see the neighborhoods completely closed, because without the chains, there wouldn't be any businesses open, not even bakeries or shoe stores. No bars or restaurants. We would see the neighborhoods completely deserted, I mean, closed, lifeless, and it would be a very shocking thing. Sadly, the self-employed often can't afford it, and many can't even close for a day because we are completely suffocated by the taxes.
I'm sure you remember what Zapatero said in a Senate committee.
He did receive 500,000 euros invoiced from this company. Relevant analysis from you, 500,000 euros.
I couldn't say exactly more or less, but 70,000 euros gross. Per year is what I was earning for my work, 70,000 euros gross on average per year. 70,000 euros gross, that, of course, invoiced, which was subject to personal income tax because I'm self-employed. I don't have a company. I've never had a company. Not here, nor anywhere else in the world.
Okay.
Not even in Kuala Lumpur.
Had you heard this message from Zapatero presenting himself as just another self-employed person?
No, I hadn't heard it, but I think that he, as just another self-employed person, obviously, no, he isn't. He isn't, among other things, because if we notice, no politician is ever investigated, or people around politicians by the tax authorities. What a coincidence, huh? Never ever, but they come down hard on us. Since I don't know how many audits we've had, especially for those of us active in activism, all of us who protest a little, we're a bit persecuted, but they never get caught. No. I don't think they have the same, come on, no, I won't say anything else.
I was going to ask you if you have a safe with jewelry, but let's just leave it, okay?
No, I don't have one. What I have is cobwebs in the fridge, which is what most freelancers have, but safes, no, nothing, no.
All right, Carmen Corredor, make the announcement for all the freelancers who are watching us now. Where should they go on Sunday at 11?
In Barcelona, we will be at the Jardiner de Gracia at 11, and then we'll send you the poster with the other cities that are organizing as well. About 20 cities will participate at 11, except the Canary Islands at 10 as usual. We'll be waiting for you there. All the associations, and I'm even calling for civil action, right? Because we want to emphasize again that a Spain without self-employed people would be completely deserted and there wouldn't be anything. We really need the self-employed for Spain to survive. And we are, as I always say, the ones who keep this going. So we invite all of you, please, even if you're not self-employed, come and support us because we need you to give us a voice and help us.
We want more self-employed people and fewer zapateros. We couldn't say it any clearer. Carmen Corredor, sending you a kiss. It will be a success. See you on Sunday at 11. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.
Prestigious scientists analyze how the body reacts to different stimuli. The first of them was the magnificent Dr. Stivil, the man who knows the most about sleep in the world.
Fear appears suddenly. You don't know why, but it's real. This has a name. It's called sleep paralysis. It happens when the brain wakes up before the body.
Why does sleep paralysis happen?
I'll explain exactly what it is. When the brain starts to fall asleep, a disconnection has to occur in the cerebral cortex, which is what keeps us alert during the day and lets sleep take over, which is like a balloon that we've been inflating until at night this balloon presses against the cortex and this disconnection happens. This is the key moment, the moment of disconnection. What happens? This happens when we fall asleep, but it also happens when we wake up. That is, sleep is taking place, but then the cerebral cortex has to connect.
Another record, friends, another record. Yesterday, for the first time in the history of Spain, the brother of a prime minister sat in the dock, accused of getting the job through connections. Sanchez should have been sitting there since he pulled the strings, but we'll have to wait a bit longer for that. It's funny, this man is quite a character. He gave us some glorious days during that statement before Judge Biesma, remember?
The Office of Performing Arts?
Yes.
What is it?
Well, let's see. I understand that it's the office that's in charge of the performing arts.
It's just that I'm asking you.
Leave it there, leave it there, leave it there, leave it there. He was the director, and then he asks him, and where is it? Well, I couldn't tell you. Do you know what your lawyer said at the trial? He said that not going to work is not a crime. That's what you heard. That not going to work is not a crime. Why? Because he never went to work, but he still got paid. He didn't even know where it was. His office didn't even exist. When they reported him, colleagues like Alejandro Entrambasaguas at El Debate quickly set up an office with 4 tables and a couple of chairs to make it look real. It's all like a movie, like a Berlanga movie, but a movie. Look, the lawyer of the brother gets very aggressive in front of the judge.
That's why I say this isn't just a ritual to keep complaints going. This is the ritual of saying that now, after the Aldama trial has taken place, this is a fallacy.
Sir, please don't raise your voice.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
All right, let's conduct the debate calmly and quietly, and do not interrupt me.
Sorry.
I should talk like this with my fellow panelists, huh? Don't interrupt me. Look, Julio Bronchal, don't interrupt me. Has this ever happened to you in court, Julio?
No, there have been debates, but you know how to keep things proper and you never say outrageous things. Because what you're laying out gives us a lot to talk about. Allow me to bring up several points. First of all, the lawyer doesn't know what a fallacy is. Then he goes and says, this is a fallacy, because it sounds good to him, right? First, he doesn't know which word to pick, and then uses one he doesn't even know. Well, it's not a fallacy. A fallacy is something else. And then, in the introduction you make, you bring up something fundamental, and that's first, the morality of the socialist. So he says that not going to work is not a crime. With that, obviously, we're already, on one hand, making it clear who our role models are, right? They go on and on about work and everything. They despise what they don't know, yet also admit their own shortcomings by acknowledging they weren't going to work. But within their world and their absolutely deranged universe, none of this is a problem at all. It's the problem of getting used to living with impunity.
Absolutely. The image of Sanchez's brother in the dock is part of this country's history, and the trial has only just begun. The exit has been a bit chaotic with all the press behind him. He's making himself heard with a megaphone.
He said something, he sang. Or are we still the same? Silence, that's it, silence, silence.
Now you don't mouth off so much.
Well, now there's no shame, right? Now you're too ashamed to say anything.
They're good.
Me, Albert? This is a circus.
Tell me.
Milestone of memory, but I remember a chirigota from Cádiz that was masterful. If you can, look it up and play it so everyone can enjoy. Los Confidenciales. Half jokingly, half seriously, he asked the judge, "Hey, and you, the Office of Performing Arts, tell us what was there?" And he answered something like, and he says, "Man, this is a simple thing, because in the office, what was there? Well, there was a table and there was a chair." I mean...
Well, let's listen a little more to what he said to Judge Bidma. After that, well, it must be the Office of Performing Arts thing. I asked this. Where is it?
I'm asking because in the Provincial Council's organizational chart, in your current role, it's called Head of the Office of Performing Arts.
Yes.
So I ask you, if you are the head of the Performing Arts Office, what is the Performing Arts Office? Where is it located? Who is part of it? What does it do?
Well, it's the place where I continue with the work I've been doing since I joined the Provincial Council in 2017.
So physically, where is the Performing Arts Office located?
Well, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I imagine it's in the office where I'm currently based.
Who else is in it besides you? Are you the boss? If someone is the boss of something, they must have some subordinates. Who are your subordinates in the Performing Arts Office?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that I don't have subordinates. I mean, I have people I collaborate with. And, well, they're still the same people. People from the Culture Department.
Well, let's leave it at that because it's all a bit embarrassing. Listen to how he performed. This man, David Sanchez Perez Castejon, performed the dance of the Cherimoya, which is his greatest work. He is a musician, orchestra conductor in St. Petersburg. He got a push, right? From some friends who support Sanchez. But the best thing he did, they say, is this. You be the judge. It must be me, right? I just don't understand music, Julio. Because I can't even find the rhythm. It's hard for me, but it must be magnificent. Nacho Duato, who was the one who encouraged and supported him in St. Petersburg, liked it a lot. Have you heard it yet?
No, I don't usually expose myself to those risks, frankly. But I can tell you that Luki, who's a creature of pure instinct, has started howling. Yes, my dog has started howling. There must be a reason for it. Still, when you see this live with cherimoyas, bananas, or whatever, it's even better. I'll keep my opinion to myself.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. Take it away, Gile. Because it's Friday. We don't want to ruin the day. Let me greet someone who has come today to chat about whatever he wants. And I'm really interested in having him come back here. He was here recently for an interview, and I learned a lot from him. Mariano Crevillen, how are you?
Very well.
Did you like the Cherimoya dance or not?
I'm not an expert in music.
Right.
But in any auditorium of any conservatory, I think you hear similar things.
Well, that's awful. Well, Mr. Mariano was in the military. He's a teacher. He's been many things. He lives in Toledo. He's from Murcia. And he's the man who reported Pedro Sanchez and Candido Conde Pumpido for not having a budget because that's unconstitutional. Since we did the first interview, I've received a lot of messages from people encouraging us to keep going, to make that public. I mean, to make it easier for others. Do what you did, take it, go to the police station and report it. Because if only one person does it, nothing will happen. But if they do, 50,000 or 100,000, maybe something will happen. I've sent him a standard letter that a friend of the show wrote for us. And from there, the confidentials are looking at it now. What do you think of that letter? Is it useful?
Of course, it's useful. It's a much better written letter than mine. And the person who wrote it knows more about legal matters than I do. I simply dedicated myself to listing the Constitution articles I believed were being ignored. And then, well, that's it. To say that the two who didn't comply were the president and the one behind him who should verify that the Constitution is upheld, well, he just ignored it and that's it.
No, well, that's fine.
The template letter, which is phenomenal, is very well written, much more complete than mine. Of course.
Thank you very much. It was written by a confidential person named Teles or Telesforo. Call him whatever you want, from Romania, who obviously must have knowledge of the law. Now, this letter is a template letter. You just have to put your name, ID number, address, and sign at the bottom, and that's about it. It's a complaint that anyone can download from this moment on from our website. Go to castillonconfidential.com. At the very top, in the header, you'll find the template letter to download, and you can report Sanchez. I encourage you to do it. How long did it take you, Mariano?
It took me 10 minutes. The worst part was the police's astonishment. Of course, the officer was left stunned when...
Yeah.
But are you sure? And I say, well, yes.
Well, maybe now they won't be so shocked because short of taking him to Soto del Real, we've seen it all, Julio, this week, eh? And especially in the last few days. Did you expect Julio to get this far with the investigation by UCO and UDEF?
Yes, because also recovering previous programs, you know that I've mentioned the sin of Ibris several times, right? Which is this intoxication of pride that drives whoever commits it to madness, right? The sin of Ibris, you will remember, was to go against the natural order, to attack everything. That for those who sin, it imbues them with a feeling of arrogance and impunity that ultimately makes them powerless and ends up leading them to the abyss. So it's very difficult to sustain a structure like this without, in the end, this coming to the surface, right? The situation is terrible. Our country is in a situation very, very, very complicated, and I congratulate Mariano for his initiative, because recovery isn't just about removing these people. We have to recover the country. We have to learn from this experience so it doesn't happen again. And one of the ways is to take the law seriously, for real. What does it mean that even though there is a constitutional mandate, there are no budgets here? Obviously, that can't be tolerated. It can't be tolerated that the representatives of the people's power of popular sovereignty in parliament swear by whatever they want. One swears by Snoopy and another by whatever they want, by pumpkin fritters. I mean, that's not how it works. This is a country that, if it has a future-oriented outlook and sees a chance for prosperity, it must begin by respecting itself and the laws. Therefore, in the end, answering your question, I knew this would take time and be tough, but thankfully there are a few of judges, there are a handful of police officers, there are a handful of journalists, among whom you are, who have finally managed to channel and defend everything, right? Once again, that phrase from Churchill rings true. Never have so many owed so much to so few. And at this moment, I thank you and so many other brave people for what you are doing for saving all of us from a terrible future, because we know where this ends. This ends in Cuba, it ends in Venezuela, and in the worst case, it ends in North Korea.
You are a psychologist, and yesterday we heard a phrase from Sanchez that has been repeated a lot, and it denotes some kind of pathology. Even Feiju said it, and you know he rarely speaks. It was when they asked him, he was in Rome after seeing the Pope, if he could call elections. Listen carefully to what he says.
Some colleague who obviously is asking me to call early elections because he knows that I'm going to have a bigger parliamentary majority in the government and in Congress, so I can govern much more calmly. And I appreciate that. But I can't call elections for partisan reasons. I have to call elections for the general interest of the citizens. And the general interest of the citizens today, with wars all over the world, with crises that require effective responses and also fair ones from the general state administration.
Let's see, he was referring to Garcia Page and used a mocking tone. he was probably laughing at him, in the sense that he probably said it because he knows I'm going to get the majority. Either that or it's pure irony. Or he's not in this world. What do you think, Julio?
No, he's a narcissistic psychopath. And he knows perfectly well what he's saying. There's an irony there. But above all, look, paraphrasing Solzhenitsyn, the author of the Gulag Archipelago, Pedro Sanchez, he knows he's lying. We know that he's lying to us. He knows that we know he's lying to us. And even so, he doesn't stop lying. And why doesn't he stop lying? Because he's the supreme pontiff of the Church of Lies, which is the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party. It is the seat of all corruption, all imposture, and all lies. And I'm going to tell you something to think about, and this is serious, beyond the irony, I believe, that this country will show moral regeneration when someone who supports the Socialist Party, who votes for the Socialist Party, or who whitewashes the Socialist Party, feels the social repugnance of those who, for example, hit a child or mistreat an animal the day that people react this way to what socialism has meant and still means. That day we will have morally renewed ourselves as a society. Because the Socialist Party is a party that is a toxic anachronism that still survives in this society in an absolutely incomprehensible way. A party with a history marked by crimes against the nation, by crimes against people. And I believe that right now we Spaniards should not miss the opportunity to get rid of it once and for all. Let it follow the path taken by the Italian Socialist Party, the French Socialist Party, or Papandreou's Socialist Party in Greece. That is the dustbin of history, and let this nightmare end.
Don Mariano, there are very few who do what you have done, which is not just sit back and wait for someone else to govern. That made things easier, didn't it?
I was listening to Julio, and he's right in almost everything he says. Suppose, which is easy, that Sanchez says he's staying, that Sanchez says he's not leaving. He's not leaving. He digs in where he is. And he's already posted Puente's statements from this morning saying that this was a plot, etc., etc., etc. So if that man doesn't leave and his colleagues won't kick him out until they're done milking the state dry, what do we do? The thing is, this guy won't leave no matter what.
Okay.
And there are no legal mechanisms to kick him out. There just aren't. Well, there is one, but I don't know if he wants to risk it. Our boss.
He's talking about the king.
But that would mean going against him. Just imagine if he speaks out like he did when back in 17 there was the Catalonia situation, right? If he speaks out, we'll get involved in politics as fans. Imagine if he speaks out. Sanchez and all his allies, they hold a vote in Congress against our system, and a complicated atmosphere is created. Because the majority, in theory, the democratically elected majority, meaning the representatives, Spaniards in Congress, vote that they don't want the person who wants order.
Yes, he's talking about a coup, right? A coup against the monarchy. Be careful, because there are people who are hinting to me that this plan might be in place. I mean that Sanchez now, I'm being told, and I believe it because we have the experience, we're not new anymore, is preparing a joint action among his media outlets, the protesters, those who live off the PSOE. He is going to organize a demonstration in Madrid, for example. He will bring buses from all over Spain, and it will look like there are a lot of them. And he is going to launch a defense action of the democracy that he believes is to stay in power. If that's what he ultimately focuses on taking down the king, he would succeed. The monarchy has never been as weak as it is these days. What do you think, Julio?
No, I don't think that'll work. Because even this fraud, this traitor, already, I think the Spanish people know him, and in the recent elections we've had, the results have been catastrophic. We have to go back to those days of reflection that we know what he used them for, right? Now, in Judge Pedraz's order, it seems that the whole beginning of this mafia, guided and directed to extort judges, prosecutors, officers, journalists, to bribe them, to corrupt the structures of the state and freedom. At that time, a demonstration of support was also called. With poor results, that is, it was a complete embarrassment. Besides, you might remember how Montero was jumping around there like she was possessed, trying to cheer people up. That was a real failure. I don't think that's going to work. And on the other hand, legally, and going back to what Mariano was saying, he can't change the constitution because he doesn't have that majority, the required parliamentary majority, even though he talks about majorities. That path is limited for him. He can also make noise, which is now very dangerous for the Socialist Party. We know from history that when it finds itself in these situations, the worst can happen, And then either a catastrophe of any kind that justifies it, because look, what scares me about what he said the other day is that he talks about stability. All right, and then later on he redirects this from a catastrophic situation. They are specialists in creating catastrophes of any kind, whether it's trains blowing up or things like that. And from there, a sort of state of emergency is justified. But on the other hand, I think the Spanish nation is stronger and there's something we don't have. We must not overlook. And that's something that Mariano knows much better than I do. The armed forces also have a constitutional mandate to protect the Spanish nation and defend the Constitution.
We didn't see those armed forces saving lives in Valencia, Mariano, and I'm afraid we won't see them saving the Constitution either.
Well, I can tell you about colleagues, senior officers who were in the unit ready to go, and defense did not give them the order to go.
Yes.
I mean, the military personnel, let's generalize, that is, officers, non-commissioned officers, troops, wanted to go and they were not given the order to go. They were not allowed to go.
Yes, but you take the oath above your superiors, right? You go to defend the country, or is it that if you see it burning, Zarzuela, if they're not ordered to go, they won't put out the fire either, right? That's a rather weak position, isn't it?
Let's see. It's just that I had a professor who used to tell me that you can't force a person to act in a certain way. But by acting a certain way over time, you end up assimilating it, right?
Yeah.
And this is what happens here. I mean, when, for example, what happened to us happened in Barbate or happened in recently, right, with the civil guard officers. Any professional guard, military or police, no matter how professional he is not immune to being rammed by a motorboat or another vehicle. But when it happens twice, like the running of the bulls and they come after you, those people, why didn't they use their weapons? Because they were there, and even less that you don't use them. It's a lack of training. Years ago, a trainee police officer, I don't know if you remember, a man came out with a huge knife, and the police and the girl back up, and the man kept swinging at her with the knife. A colleague then arrived and shot him in the leg. When asked why, he said the Avila Police Academy warned him that using his weapon would ruin his life. I believe the guard, police officer or soldier must see himself as the good guy because he is, and society gives him the means to be that way. And he has to act like it, but the due obedience, it's complicated. I'm not saying anything, but yesterday was, for example, where did Lieutenant Colonel Ballas go? To interrogate certain people who were superior to him?
Yes, to the General Directorate of the Civil Guard. But who holds the top positions in the police, civil guard, and prosecutor's office? Those who have been obedient to the police, to Sanchez. And who is out on the street? Well, look, we start with Perez de los Cobos, and we have a very long list for not obeying an illegal order. What I want to say is that just as there are journalists who risk it all, there are judges who risk it all. Judge Bidma from Badajoz has risked it all. I mean, they've run campaigns against her. Or Judge Pinado, he's about to retire. He could have looked the other way. I would like the military commanders to take risks too, but I see that not a single one does. And it makes me sad.
I think that's generalizing, and I don't think that's right. in all circumstances, in the judiciary, in the legal profession, in the military, in the police, there are always people, good people and less good people, and more capable and less capable people. The problem with those who are in power now is that many times, I mean, as someone said recently, a criminal or a thief or an I authorize it guy or you arrest him, he's wanted, the man is corrupted, he's a corrupt person, that's it. But the problem when things work like a mafia is that the one who gets put in jail and the one who gets attacked isn't you, the one who's being robbed, it's the judge. The thing is, the powers that be have gone the way of Chavismo. They've taken over the top positions, and they have a particular knack for targeting certain people. I know some really honest, really good people who have to put up with a lot of things many times because they believe they're doing the institution a bigger favor by weathering the storm and doing what they believe is most fair than by facing it directly. Because if you confront it once, they'll take you out of the way. And there's always someone else who's going to sell themselves for less. And sometimes you just say, well, I do what I can and that's it.
Julio, what happens, Albert, if you allow me, is that I'm going back to what you said. You say just as there are journalists, there are also judges and prosecutors who risk themselves against what is the establishment, right? And the inertia that has led us, there could have been some in other sectors too, and even more now, because the context has changed. I mean, the social context, the general context, is not the same now as it was 3 years ago. I think we can all agree on that. There's already a sense the cycle is ending, that it's game over, that this is over. It's different. I mean, those who have enough courage, the threshold, it's much lower. Why? Because this is already an obsolete regime. Sanchez is a political corpse. Maybe he doesn't know it. He wants us to believe that he doesn't know it. But this man is completely finished. He's falling apart. The annihilation, the scattering of that whole mafia gang. In the end, the human factor will prevail once again, and it will be decisive because they're already starting to betray each other. The feeling of ruin of a building that's collapsing is now absolute. In that context, it's very easy. It's easier for those who are more consistent, even more daring, to take the step that, for example, Judge Pedraz has taken at this moment. Let's not forget that he was considered a progressive judge, but there are decent people who have said, this stops here. We have a country, devastated by a mafia, that has infiltrated the state apparatus and is using them in defiance of Spanish foreign policy, in the police, all for their own gain and the country's ruin. This is how far we've come. There comes a time when you run into someone who says, this is as far as we go. And that can happen in any sector of the country.
Look, one of those who went to question Balas when he entered the General Directorate of the Civil Guard is this captain from the UCO. His name is Juan Sanchez Yepes. The judge says he received direct payments from the PSOE. In addition to cryptocurrencies worth 132,000 euros and a gift card, he was inside the UCO, inside the investigation, and supposedly he was passing information that he wasn't allowed to pass, which are secrets under judicial investigation, to the Socialist Party. We'll see. I hope they remove him from the UCO and the Civil Guard. And then there are the incorruptible ones, because they've tried. For example, Antonio Balas himself, the Lieutenant Colonel of the UCO. They promoted him to get him out of there, which is one way. Either they end your career or they promote you to general. But before leaving, right, as you can see, he's doing his job. Or Alejandro Luzon, the anti-corruption prosecutor, he has had to put up with Peramato now and the previous one, the accused, who have put every obstacle in his way to prevent him from investigating their own people. Or take Jose Grinda, a prosecutor. The PSOE's dirty plot offered him 300,000 euros and a better future in exchange for dropping a series of cases surrounding Sanchez, or Beatriz Viedma, the judge from Badajoz, or Juan Carlos Peinado, the judge from Madrid, or Ignacio Estampa. Ignacio Estampa was very clever. He arranges to meet Lere, to buy her off, and records everything. And then that recording goes to the judge so they can investigate Lere. There are people who can't be bribed, and those are the ones I stick with. And then there are the others. For example, Sylvia Insorondo. These days, she has become very popular because of this archive clip that talked about Lera and the sewers.
So that you have all the information on the table. Lera Diaz, activist, without a position. That's her relationship with Ferraz. Activist, says the Socialist Party. There's a photo that links her to the headquarters of the Socialist Party.
This is all that Insorondo found. And keep in mind, they have a bigger budget than we do here. Magdalena is a confidential. She has put up a sign on her balcony supporting Judge Peinado. We've never seen anything like this before. She sent me a photo. It says, "I support Judge Peinado's courage" on her balcony. Very good, Magdalena. We have to applaud those who can't be bribed and call out those who let themselves be bribed. And our friend Sanchez is a trending topic because of statements like this. When he arrived to power, he spoke about setting an example.
We need to reclaim the importance of setting an example in politics, in the exercise of public life. And setting an example is not just about complying with the law. It would be worse if the law wasn't followed. What we must demand and expect from politicians in our country, whether it's a councillor, a mayor, or the president of the government, is to be exemplary, to be 2 steps ahead of what the law requires. And it's about taking political responsibility when there are cases of corruption that affect, in this case, the Partido Popular. That's why...
Well. Then he went off for his 5 days of reflection. He spent 5 days building the dirty tricks operation with his people to bribe, blackmail, and threaten judges, journalists, and prosecutors. And when he came out, the first thing he did when he said, "I'm staying," was to attack us, the free press.
If we allow deliberate hoaxes, they direct the political debate. If we force the victims of those lies to have to prove their innocence against the most basic rule of our rule of law, the consequence will be that we will have done irreparable harm to our democracy. It's been far too long, letting the filth spread unchecked through political life, public life, contaminating us with toxic practices that were unimaginable just a few years ago. Let's put an end to this mud in the only possible way, through collective rejection, calm, democratic, beyond party labels and ideologies, which I commit to lead.
These will be the same arguments that Moncloa is now putting into action. They have been meeting for days to stop what is happening. They are not worried about Avalos and Coldo. They are worried about Zapatero. They are worried about the UKO entering the PSOE twice in less than a year. This action of "we are victims of," the closest thing to a coup d'etat, the word coup d'etat, I'm hearing it a lot from the left, this Julio. It can resonate with the remaining PSOE voters.
Well, among that electorate, there are different levels. There is one that is obviously impervious to any evidence. Obviously, that's completely lost. And they're speaking to a base that I think is dwindling more and more, right? As we said before, it's becoming more and more embarrassing to support this government. In forums I participate in, like WhatsApp groups with friends and so on, there were always differing opinions. I can assure you that they haven't said a word for a week. Why? Because it's embarrassing to defend them. It's a setback and causes a loss of trust. And there's also a feeling that this is coming to an end, that this person is discredited and that some decent people were deceived, but that isn't going to resonate. They'll try everything just for the sake of trying, obviously. They already tried it with much more power and it didn't work now. With all the discredit there is, even less. No, I don't give it too much importance, no. They speak to a type of audience they consider mentally retarded. It's possible that they're partly right because there's a sector that deserves that label, but you can't go against everyone. And that's saying that you can fool a few people for a long time, many for a short time, but everyone always. Here, that too turns out to be true. It's impossible to govern against a country, to govern based on lies, talk with that sham of hoaxes and fake stuff and so on. Why? Because he knows it. He was born and raised in that. He's an expert in hoaxes, let's put it that way, right? And that's why you hear him speak in such a pompous way. But this is already in its course and in its final part, I want to give the news outlets an impression of positivity, hope, and optimism, because we are already reaching the last throes of this nightmare.
Hopefully, but I'm not so sure, Mariano Crevillen. Do you think so too?
I think that Julio is an optimist, and as they said here, a pessimist is a well-informed optimist, right? But the other day I was passing through Madrid, and I saw Madrid, and I thought, well, we are a huge, amazing country, and with so many well-prepared people, how can we have a government like this? It bothers you. Everything grates on you, and you say, this can't be. How can someone govern this crew? But you go to the Council of Ministers, and you start to see who is the least respected of the diplomats. Damn, that's the foreign minister. It's like you go, who has less prestige? That kind of thing. Who knows absolutely nothing about education or sports? And you see her as a minister. I'm telling you, because you're from around here. Come on. What is it? What was her qualification? You may not be a real friend to Paige, so just to spite Paige, I make her a minister. These are the kinds of things that should be obvious. But I repeat again, first, these people are a kind of pseudo-mafia, and you can't get rid of them easily, nor are they going to leave. This is complicated. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I would be happiest if I were wrong. But this lot isn't going anywhere. And the mess they'll make if there are elections will be another story. I don't know. I don't see it clearly.
Well, Mariano, I think taller towers have fallen, and this is a mess, which, due to the particular circumstances of the moment we've lived through and the weakness of our own system, has been able to thrive. But he's nearing the end of his career. The taxi is almost at its destination, and it's not going any further. I'm just giving you something to think about. I mean, just 7 or 8 months ago, we would have thought that Zapatero's situation would end up like that.
No.
Was going to be? No, honestly, he has a lot of power. He has a lot of contacts, a lot of connections. Well, frankly, there he is. There we have him, right? Well, I insist. Historically, even taller towers have fallen. If we look at it in perspective, all of this may seem very long, but seen with the proper perspective, this is going to be, let's see, a nightmare that has lasted as long as it has and nothing more. It no longer has any levers. It has no strength attempts. It has no strength attempts to do harm. It's true that we'll have to push and we'll have to keep doing it, but its days are already numbered. It's already on the clock.
I wish it's true that we all knew about Zapatero, more or less. We just didn't know the details. But not that it would end so quickly, so suddenly, with such force, with such a well-prepared case, right?
And with that humiliation.
Well, yes, the thing with the jewelry, let's say that's the final ridiculous point of a socialist is to have little, right? And to work a lot for others. That phrase is
willing to give everything, to give a lot.
Listen to him. Listen to the original, man.
The socialist is usually having very little and being willing to give a lot.
The best part is when the sentence creates silence, waiting for the applause, which comes a few seconds later. Zapatero is very theatrical in his expressions, isn't he? It's scary sometimes.
That final phrase, and to give a lot, traditionally you'd end with, and be a real pain in the neck. That's how it really deserves to be finished.
Mariano, you were convinced by him? You voted for him, I've been told, huh?
That, as the rumor mill had it, that his whole setup started to fall apart when his father-in-law died. The father-in-law, Begoña Gomez's father, they say he was the real mastermind behind all of this. In fact, he was the one who bought the thesis and a lot of other things for him. The one with the idea about the Mercedes disguised as an ordinary car, driving it around Spain and so on and so on. So this man, when he passed away, I think he started to fall in a downward spiral. He started making bad decisions, and I think he has made enemies with the wrong people. He has turned against Netanyahu and his associates, and once they decide to target you, they'll target you.
Well, he was never a good person. He couldn't be with good people when he never was one. We're talking about Sanchez. We heard from Francisco, Guilhem, Efa, and Mario.
Look, I'm hearing that Pedrito it hasn't been a raid. The thing is, the thing about Ferraz. And well, I can tell you, no, it hasn't been a raid. They all came to Begonia's birthday party. They came to wish her a happy birthday.
I think there's something very important we have to thank Pedro Sanchez for, and we have to be realistic about this. And that's that he has been able to destroy the PSOE. No one had ever managed to do that before.
There are people who wonder if we'll ever see Sanchez sitting in the dock. And optimistic people say and think, yes, I don't think so. I think he'll pull a Pigdemont and leave.
The whole city is calling for general elections. And Sanchez says he speaks on behalf of the Spanish people, but if we, the Spanish people, are asking him to go to hell...
Come on. Let's talk more about the government, Jose Angel, Alejandra, and Conchita.
The truth is that I'm a pessimist, right, when it comes to the situation in Spain. But I also admit I feel a certain excitement, right, when it comes to the events that keep happening. The truth is that seeing footage of the raids interspersed that same day with footage of Pedro Sanchez with the Pope makes me think I'm watching a gangster movie.
Politicians should be serving the citizens. And once they finish that service, they should get to work wherever they want, but not live off politics. Could we ever imagine any politician like Pachi Lopez, Armengol, and a few others, what they would do for a living? They'd be driving a truck at a landfill.
What should be done is to reduce the number of ministries and take away powers from the autonomous regions, because this is just a joke. And then the most important thing of all is that they create a new ministry. Look, a new ministry, which would be the Ministry of Restoration, because to leave things as they were, well, it's going to be a drama.
We have many messages from the Vatican. Pedro talks about that visit coinciding with the occupation of the UKO.
About our president's trip to the Vatican, I think he went because he regrets not having attended any funerals for the many victims in Spain in recent times, and he wants the Pope's forgiveness. I, as a good Christian, would use this outreach to the Pope to intercede for a woman who suffers, who bore the ordeal of managing the accounts of Samsonas, who has endured a tough coexistence and the weight of business responsibilities. And currently she is distressed and troubled by 4 objections that a judge is asking of her. I think that when the Pope comes to Spain, this man, who is deeply in love, should propose the beatification of his wife, which would be a well-deserved human recognition, however you want to say it, for her life of sacrifice. Well, jokes aside and seriously, the Pope could very well sanctify the Spanish people for their patience and resilience.
About the visit to the Pope, get ready because it's going to be controversial, Julio. There are many who don't understand. This whitewashing of Sanchez, he's not going to Santiago de Compostela. He's not going to many places in Spain that are the origin of Christianity. He goes to the Canary Islands to defend mass legalization. How is this visit going to end?
Let's see, we don't know, but I insist it's not going to do him any good. I mean, because it's also so dissonant to see such a piece of work, in Machado's words, next to the Pope, that this is something completely out of place, right? I don't know if the Pope wants to do some kind of sulfur therapy, which is what he says the devil smells like, and that's why he comes and is able to stand next to Sanchez. But in political terms, and speaking more seriously now, he's going to try. He tries everything. He also lives in a world. You know, like Hitler in his last days, thinking he was moving divisions that didn't exist. So he thinks this visit from the Pope is going to allow him to regain credit. Whose credit? Will standing next to the Pope really restore his credit with Catholics? It won't get him anywhere. But following up on what I said earlier, this funny and witty news outlet who had even put on Gregorian chants in the background and everything, as a forensic expert, what stands out to me is this psychopath's complete lack of concern for others. This is a man who is deeply in love with himself and nothing else. Therefore, the fact that He has crossed all the red lines to set up a mafia-like structure aimed at extorting judges, prosecutors, journalists to corrupt in order to defend, supposedly, Begonia. It makes me think that it's not love that led him to do that. The question is, what power does Begonia have? What power does Begonia have to force all of this to happen? Because he's not doing it for love or nonsense or fairy tales. I mean, there's something there that somehow he knows that if he doesn't defend Begonia, something serious, very serious could happen, and I haven't seen anyone reflect on that. Because they take for granted that he's doing it and that he set everything up to try, and he also said it clearly. Today it's in the press when he said, "You have to get her out of there, damn it." He even said that, right? Which is quoted, that's why I'm saying it. And the question is why? Why is he so eager to save Begonia if he's a guy who doesn't commit to anyone or anything? With nothing, not even himself or his own words. What's going on there? What does Begonia know about him, and to what extent? Does she have him in a compromising position?
Good question. More opinions about the papal visit, and I asked Mariano, who's in Toledo, Conchi, Juan, Miguel, and Sofia.
Remember that this Pope set up a room in the Vatican so that Muslims could pray. He hasn't defended the murdered Christians. He doesn't say anything about what's happening.
He wears the 2030 agenda pin just like he does. That one who says he's our king, and well, the only thing he's doing is destroying Spain.
The Pope is the visible head of a civilizational project, of a radical change, of what the world we know so far is going to become.
The Italian press analyzes Queen Letizia at her first meeting with Pope Leon XIV. She forgot a detail, they write. The Queen accepts the privilege of Catholic queens and princesses to wear white, but she has been criticized for not wearing the mantilla, and this was pointed out by the Italian newspaper, El Messaggero.
Well, if they knew the history and biography of the Queen, they would criticize more than just the mantilla, but let's leave it at that. Let's see, Mariano Crevillen, are you going to see the Pope?
He's coming to Toledo, and I'm not going to travel to Madrid. But that Pope was Francisco's second in command. So the change in the church's policy won't have been very big. The church is governed by humans. And as a priest friend of mine, Mariano, used to say, if after all the things we've done, we're still here 2,000 years later, it's because God is with us. A priest used to tell us that. And that,
after what we've done,
that's how it goes.
And now with Sanchez, that saying can be repeated. As for the UCO, I have messages for the Central Operational Unit, Antonio, Gloria, and Tony.
I'm super proud of the UCO, and if we have to go out, take to the streets to support the UCO. It's the best thing we can do. I really liked it that they went after the civil guard commanders and the prosecutors.
Thank God they couldn't take down the UCO. Now, who do we have to take down? It's the real terrorists, who are the journalists who are covering this whole plot.
Honestly, I don't care if they take me to jail. Excuse me, but for justice, yes. If those are the rules, let them go to jail, but what I want is for them to make up for the damage, because the damage is the money they've taken.
There isn't a Sanchez who could last that many years without a weak opposition. Yesterday, Feijo went to Leganés. There were just a handful of people, very few, and he thought of holding a rally with the shopkeepers. This was the most he did. Listen.
I tried to find some explanation for this absurd attempt to resist at all costs. Why cling to power in this way? Why cling to power in this way in the midst of such obvious decline? I'll say it again. Also, in addition to a complete and pathological obliviousness, dear friends, this desperate resistance can only be explained either by the greed to increase the loot or by the fear of not being able to hide it.
What do you think, Julio?
Well, it's Feijú. We can't ask for pears from an elm tree. That's it. I mean, unfortunately, I think The winds that are blowing require to trim the sails. That's the sailor's term. Otherwise, we need another type of boat to push. The journey, no, it can't go any further. It can't go any further. It can't go any further. But anyway, I don't deny the good intentions, but right now I think what we need is more seriousness, more forcefulness, and no rhetorical questions. Here we are talking about something very serious. We are talking about the Spanish nation. We are talking, apart from the purely, let's say, historical issue, the emotional commitment we have to our homeland, we are talking about the citizens. We're talking about a country falling apart, about a mafia group that is destroying institutions, that has stolen left and right, that has even changed Spanish foreign policy, allowing foreign powers that have altered the country's interests. I mean, we have to seriously rid ourselves of this and use the right words. It's not a deviation. He's a traitor to the whole nation, to all the citizens who trusted him at a certain point. And with him are all the necessary accomplices behind all the crimes that this mafia group has committed. We have to stand our ground, put our foot down and say, this has gone far enough. And let's move forward with the healthy part of the Spanish nation, which, as Mariano rightly said, has nothing to do with this scum, who are currently usurping positions of power and national sovereignty.
Mariano was commenting on the role of the king as a person. He is one of the few who can slam his fist on the table, give a speech, something that puts the country back on solid footing again and unites our efforts. Because now we are divided, because no one brings us together, no. About the king and his role in this critical situation, in this state of emergency we are living in, Marucci, Nati, and Lucy.
I think that nonsense will end when Spain, which is being seen by the whole world as a country of crooks, scammers, and criminals. Well, when he goes abroad, or they stop inviting him, or they stop treating him as an authority, then that's when this guy will see what he's losing.
The monarch reigns in Spain. You know, he lives like a king because he really lives like a king. And the other one too, with her little schemes and everything, just like the whole European network with Agenda 2030, right? Both of them.
I dreamed it, or I heard somewhere that Trump wanted to seize the Spanish national team from us. Doesn't this have something to do with the king coming out and standing up a little to see if that way Trump, well, you know, he's the king. How can you mess with him? Leave him and see what the king does. Puts a bit of a break on all this. I think all of this has been thoroughly thought through. So they've brought in the king to slow all this down a bit, all this they've got going.
For Trump to seize the Spanish national team, that's impossible anyway. He's capable of saying it, that and worse things. You know, it's Trump. Judge him by his actions, not by his words. Mariano, do we have any hope left that King Felipe can stop the coup?
I don't know. I have faith in His Majesty, and the king has a solid background, but it's just that it's very easy to talk. But the king has one shot. If the king makes a mistake when it comes time to take that shot, it could turn against him. And I think he will be perfectly advised so that if he has to do something, he does it at the right time. Because as we've already mentioned before, as I told you, just imagine if the king speaks and the whole Congress, with a majority of all these people who support the government, says no. So then it's put to a vote, the parliament votes, in Congress specifically, that they don't want the monarchy, that there's no interference from the monarchy, etc., etc., etc. That it's violating the constitution, and that it has no reason to intervene since it's a parliamentary monarchy. So the king, I think he has to wait for the right moment to say something.
I hope he does. I hope he does. And let's see if when he takes his shot, there's still a state left to defend, because that's the real issue. We're going to the newsroom. Susana Gas, latest messages.
Here we are, Albert, in the Castillon Confidential Newsroom. It's Friday, and you can imagine that we're still receiving lots of congratulations and a lot of support for that YouTube live stream last Saturday during the March for Dignity. Antonia is still congratulating us well, and I could mention many more. But having said that, Usher says that this struggle is between good and evil. He's mainly talking about Sanchez and Zapatero. Gloria says that anyway. Support for the UCO. Hang in there, please, hang in there. There's only one truth, and there are many of us, good people, who support you. Nega says that the Pope is coming to support his lackey Sanchez for obeying his elite masters. It seems that he's also very, very close to Sanchez. Dolores says that yesterday's show was great. Every day you're more truthful. I follow you every day. Honest, brave, they're exemplary along with the UCO and the brave police officers. Pilar also says that she's excited. With the start of yesterday's program, I cried Albert Castellon out of joy knowing that the UCO is still there supporting the citizens. Dignity, strength, honor, keep moving forward. Maria Jesus says, I am Catholic, but I am seeing that this Pope, he seems too close to those against the church, similar to before. I'm not sure how you see it. Yolanda says this and writes to us from Venezuela. Don't forget about Venezuela, Albert Castellon.
Never, never.
I know you're watching closely, but I follow you. From Venezuela, along with many Venezuelans, thank you for supporting us through so many disasters. And please may Spain not fall, especially during tough times like these. Thank you for always being there. We watch you daily, remember that. Gloria says that if there is blackmail, it's because those in charge are doing what they shouldn't, and who pays for it? The Spanish people. And we'll leave it here, Albert. It's important to remember, we say it every day, but it's really important to remember to all our insiders that we have social media, that we have channels, and we would love for you to follow us on all of them. Thank you so much, Albert.
And don't forget, thank you, Susana, that there are elections in Colombia on Sunday, and we've been talking about those elections all week. De la Espriella seems to be the winner, but it's yet to be seen because electoral fraud also hangs over Colombia. Last message from candidate De la Espriella.
I can't even imagine any option other than victory. The people told me that I will be the next president of the Republic. My term will be 4 years, and once it is over, I will retire from public life forever. The first task for the military forces and the police in each region will be to capture or kill the narco-terrorist leaders who operate in your jurisdiction. We will create an anti-extortion search unit. I will lead it myself. I will do whatever it takes so that our soldiers and police officers can fulfill their heroic mission.
Wonderful. I wish we had a leader here, Julio, who would say, I will stay for 4 years and then leave politics. We've never had that in our lives. Never!
Well, believe me, this idea that good people should step aside, no, I want someone who lasts and keeps doing things right. That doesn't worry me so much. But well, I think, hey, this gentleman, at least from his words, makes me want to vote for him, honestly.
Yes, yes.
And speaking of that, he's the opposite of what we have here. And just one last thought, even if it's just a poorly informed optimist, as Mariano says, I turn to my defense, which is psychological knowledge. Look, besides the UCO, besides of those brave journalists, among whom you obviously are in the front row, and of so many good Spaniards, we have an ally, a great one to put an end to Sanchez. And it's the character's own arrogance. It's what's leading him to failure and to catastrophe. He's a man who, possessed and drunk on himself, lets his guard down. He lives with a sense of impunity that makes him vulnerable, so confidential Spaniards, go ahead, we have to keep pressing.
Yes, sir. Well, before we leave, Fraguas, last message. Today, the Feast of the Lamb ends. We're listening.
Until today, May 29th, the Feast of the Lamb is celebrated. A Muslim festival that has replaced traditional long-standing festivals in some places in Spain. 3 million euros in public funds are allocated to promoting slaughter van trucks and other customs increasingly present in our society. While criticism is not allowed for fear of hate crime charges, the reality is that Spanish political society is in reality profoundly disloyal to us, to civil society. Islam establishes a moral standard that is immensely inferior to the Western standard, since its laws emanate directly from a supposed divine inspiration that seeks to displace the Western laws that are born from the rights of men, which in turn are derived from the virtue that flows from the morality of the teachings of the gospel. It seems like the same path, but it's not. The transition from virtue to law is a matter for men, which is where law should stay, not in mystical genocidal books.
We agree, and I don't know if it's celebrated in Toledo. Possibly yes, right? There's always a Muslim population, isn't there?
The Muslim population in Spain will be there will be as many good people as in Spanish society, but we must take into account the philosophy and expansionism of Islam. At first, they are a minority. They demand to be treated as minorities, but when they start to gain some power, then they become the majority and stop respecting the previous minorities. You need to learn that from others' experiences. And we have many examples in Northern European countries where that has happened. Anyone who wants to work can work. Anyone who wants shelter can take shelter. But Europe has been Europe because of its Christian roots.
Yes, yes.
And because we respect, but all the religious struggles are Buddhists against Muslims, Christians against Muslims, Indians against Muslims. So there must be something, there must be a reason. I mean, that's what I think.
Mariano, thank you for being with us this morning. We are going to share that letter. The farther it goes, the better. And we'll meet whenever you want. A big hug.
Thank you very much, Albert. See you later.
Dear Julio Bronchal, greetings. And who used to say that about strength and honor? The gladiators, right? In Rome before going out into the arena, was that it?
Well, I'm not really sure, but it's true that this became popular after the movie Gladiator. All right, well said. Strength and honor? Yes, sir.
Hugs, my friend. Take care.
Same to you.
All right, gentlemen, get ready. Today we have Paco Alvarez. He's bringing an unsung hero, Don Santiago Cortés, in just a minute.
You're listening to Castillon Confidential.
From time to time, our confidential heroes with Paco Alvarez traveled to the Spanish Civil War because there were countless heroes whose names have gone unnoticed by history, and since they weren't from the losing side, now the law of democratic memory doesn't want to remember them either. Today we're talking about someone who was a hero in the Civil War, Santiago Cortés Gonzalez. Paco Alvarez, welcome. How are you, my friend?
Hey, well, I'm delighted to be here with you and with all our confidants to talk about another hero, one of the many there have been in Spain throughout history, no matter which side, no matter which century.
Of course. Hey, for those who don't know him, tell me, who is Santiago Cortés Gonzalez?
Well, look, Santiago Cortés is a man who was born in a town in Jaén, Valdepeñas de Jaén. That's the name of the town. Do not confuse with Valdepeñas in Ciudad Real. At the end of the 19th century, 1897, who immediately felt the call of arms. He entered the General Military Academy of Zaragoza in 17, and later, after graduating, he fought in Africa on several occasions. And later, he wanted to join the Civil Guard to, among other things, be able to stay in Jaén, right? He quickly became a lieutenant, and in 1932, he was reprimanded by the government because there was a demonstration in his town in which there were armed socialist deputies, and he suppressed the demonstration. So they told him those things are not done. And then, just as you hear, and then in 1934, also during the revolution, well, he also prevented the revolution from succeeding in Mancha Real, in the town of Mancha Real, and he was also reprimanded by the government again. When the coup d'etat by the Francoists and everything else began in 1936, in Jaén, well, more or less about half of the civil guards supported the uprising and the other half did not. But what happened was that the civil guards who agreed with the rebels started to gather together. And in the end, they took refuge in the sanctuary of Our Lady of the Head in Andújar, where the government and the government troops also didn't really know what to do with them because, well, they had gone there with their families, with some volunteers who also had joined the guards to see what to do, to see what would happen. And well, in the end, the government tried to negotiate. The Republican government tried to negotiate with them. They were told to surrender their weapons while being surrounded. And Santiago Cortés, who was the highest ranking civil guard, they had gathered about 200 people, including volunteers and civil guards, and 900 civilians, including women and children, etc., who had taken refuge there partly because no one else remained in that sanctuary, because the monks who were there had already been killed beforehand, or some had fled, but so while they were there were basements, they could hold out for a while, and Santiago Cortés stopped those who had come to negotiate, and he said, "We are in open rebellion, and from now on, if you want us out, you have to come for us." This was September of 1936, more like in September. And they held out there against air raids, against artillery bombardments, against the entire Republican Army over and over again until May of 1937, until the 1st of May.
Please, all those months with family, with children, with women.
With women and children enduring as best they could with what they had, since they were besieged from the start. And also, I mean, for the Republic, it was like a pain in the ass, excuse me. I mean, they had to get rid of this, let's say, outbreak of rebellion in the middle of Jaén. The nationalists, the other side, I don't think they even intended to rescue them either. They knew they were holding out for their families, and that's it. But no, most likely there was no hope for a solution. In the end, I mean, the Republic got tired of so many militiamen, so much bombing, so much destruction. They really devastated the sanctuary. It was basically left in complete ruins. And in the end, well, in April of 37, they finally took it seriously and sent 10,000 soldiers. The Republicans, with impressive tank support, with bombings, I insist, artillery in abundance, continuous air bombings, knowing there were civilians. It didn't matter, it's war, right? And it's war, so well, neither side cared. And in the end, the attackers on May 1st, precisely in 37, took what was left. There were 46 fighters remained, all wounded. Among them, Captain Cortés, who was very badly wounded. He was evacuated by the Republicans to a hospital where he died the next day, not without first thanking the Republic for having taken care of him. That is, for once, things did not end in barbarism, but those who took the place recognized the heroism of those who had fought, treated those they could treat. Then they obviously sent them to prison. It's a war. And the civilians were sent to the town of Viso del Marqués, where they were relocated. There was no retaliation at all. What had happened was acknowledged with honor. I insist, Captain Cortés himself on his deathbed. There's a photo of him there in the hospital. He thanked, yes, he thanked the Republic for how they had treated them. I mean, it's a drop of charity within the barbarity that was the war.
10,000 with air and ground bombings. Against how many? How many were there when they got there?
At first, there were 200. Like I said, by May 1st, there were 46 left fighting. The rest were children, women, people who weren't going to take up arms.
What a man. Julio Cortés González. Is there any more information about him? Where is he buried? Are there any streets named after him? Anything?
Of course, we do know they buried him in a mass grave, but with his uniform somehow placed on top. So in 1939, it was easy to locate his grave and move it to another place. At the time, streets were named after him in many towns, especially in Jaén and in his own town in Valdepeñas de Jaén. There was a monument that at the inauguration, his wife was present and his children. I think it was inaugurated in 54 around that time, but they got to see it. And well, the monument was there until 1991. The first socialist local administration that existed in his town ordered the demolition of that monument.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say the mayor's name because he doesn't deserve to be mentioned, because he's not a hero, but rather has gone through ignominy of being someone who treated Santiago Cortés worse than even his own enemies had treated him, against those he fought and who recognized and respected him, but this man did not.
What a shameless mayor to destroy the image and memory of a hero, no matter which side he was on. That's what Spain can do. That's shameless, just like the ideology.
What had Santiago Cortés done? He had defended the families of his comrades and his own, according to what he believed, which was something wrong. I mean, they were in a war. and he didn't know how things would end. He's guilty of having defended civilians, and that's why he should be forgotten, and the streets named after him should be changed. I don't know. I think that if we aren't able to recognize our heroes, we'll end up losing our honor. And because I do care, I mean, I want to know what this man did, because I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why historical memory has to attack those who fought on one side if they did it honestly, honorably, and defended innocence by giving their lives for it.
Mr. Santiago Cortés Gonzalez, we will never forget him here, and this program will remain for decades, years, I hope many, so that people know who he was. A big hug, Paco. I follow you on Confidential History. Thank you.
Thank you. See you later, friends.
I love it when Minerva starts singing. Once she starts, she can't stop, but she gets better every time. Listen.
The end of Sanchismo has come, and you will go to Soto del Real. The end of Sanchismo.
Stop, stop, stop. Thank you. Minerva came to the protest. She came to say hi to me, and I told her to sing more. She took it seriously. Well, thank you very much. You do it very well. I liked it. Speaking of this Soto thing, this meme, which I find very funny, you know that at the door of the PSOE, there are some construction scaffolds set up. They're renovating the facade. Well, Jose Antonio took advantage of the scaffolding and put up the same thing as Minerva. We're moving. We're already there. In Soto del Real is beautiful, huh? Besides a prison, it has many more things. Or well, see if you can go this weekend if you're near Madrid. You can breathe really fresh air. Well, Pili, thank you for your words.
Thank you so much for all your work. Congratulations, congratulations. Well, it's just amazing. You do a really great job. Congratulations, congratulations, and greetings to all your collaborators and especially to you.
Thank you very much, dear friend, and thanks to Jose Luis Pagador for his donation to the program. Thank you very much. You know that through our usual email address, you can ask us if we have Bizum, we have PayPal, or a checking account at albertcastillon7@gmail.com. By the way, we've already closed the crowdfunding for Sabache. He'll be here on Monday, and we'll do the final balance. And we finished the keychains days ago, that security keychain people still ask me for, and there aren't any more left. Well, and Juan Manuel sends a message to our trusted jeweler, the one right next to the Puerta del Sol, who makes a mistake and says Pino, but it's Javier Peno.
I think the one who should appraise those jewels is our Javier Pino, who is wonderful. He appraised my mother's jewels for me. She just passed away. He's a wonderful person, but as a professional, both he and the young man he has there are amazing. So let's see if Javier appraises it. And then we'll take care of this guy and Sanchez too while we're at it.
Thank you very much, my friend Juan Manuel. Javier Peno is a sponsor. He's been a jeweler all his life, and he buys gold watches, precious stones. Well, you know, we announce it here every day. You're right, he would be the only one who would properly appraise it. The exact price of these jewels, I sent your audio to Javier, and he found it really funny. Well, edits. There are many, for example, Asterix and Obelix. I mean, Coldo and Avalos. It's sent by Jose Carlos.
Cold Obelix, stop eating chistoras or you'll get sick. I just can't stop. I love chistoras, Avalokix. But if you eat more, you'll feel terrible. Yum, I can't resist. Oh. I told you so. Come on, let's go see Zapatorix.
Zapatorix from Zapatero.
With a little bit of Venezuelan gold and now I'll add some diamonds, I'll get the perfect potion.
My God, how Asterix and Obelix have degenerated. Well, get ready, there's more. By the way, Susana from Confesiones Confidenciales sent me this cover for you to see. There you see Susana and Zapatero. Who's wearing more jewelry between the two? Little by little, you'll see how Susana increases, and Begoña, The main character, Begonia Gomez, from Freud Lannister's doll, it's sent by Maria.
This is intolerable, unacceptable, shameless, Pedro, useless. Come here right now.
Yes, Picturita, what's wrong? Are you upset?
You should know. What do you think?
I was recording a TikTok, and I was just about to get to that.
I'm sick of your TikToks. My father was so right when he told me you were lazy and that you smelled like chicken from miles away. Quit making TikToks and start working on the judges now.
Yes, Picturita.
That runs like in Pay Porta, you useless.
Ouch.
I wish it were like that. At home, I'd prefer Begonia Gomez. Someday we'll know these details. Well, there's a doll that's not called Begonia Gomez. She's called Deconia Gomez.
Deconia Gomez has arrived, the doll who collects crimes, dodges journalists, and makes people talk on the phone. If they catch you, use your Charoback, attack the reporters, and report them for assault. That's so Deconia.
Well, Rosalo sent it. That doll is going to be a hit this holiday season. Well, another meme. Avalos' secretary Jessica and Zapatero's secretary Gertrudis. Which one do you mean would be the one that either of their wives would choose? You can't compare them. The meme of Sanchez chasing Julio was sent to me by Mario and many others. It says, "Don't run, Sanchez can't catch up to Julio." We agree. Let's see if it's true, since there's so much talk, and then he outlives everyone. Well, get ready, because I'm afraid that with the way things are right now, even though today is Friday or Saturday or Sunday, we'll have to show up here to bring you the latest updates as investigations, arrests, and corruption continue. We have to stay vigilant so that none of them escape the country. Stay alert at the borders, airports, and train stations. Please be our eyes. We'll tell you on Monday. Thank you.
Tú lo sabes y yo lo sé. Somos confidenciales. Tú eres confidencial. Yo soy confidencial. Todos confidenciales. Todos confidenciales. Pero solo para mentes abiertas y para gente despierta. Desde la trinchera las balas silban y no hay manera de salir allá afuera. Aquí la libertad tiene las alas de cera. Albert Castillo, Susana Gash, Tucci Castillo y demás. Muchas gracias. Con esto y un bizcocho. Hasta mañana a las 8.
Castillon Confidential by Albert Castillon.